Hello, I'm so excited you're here at Global Nicole today because we are going to go into one of my favorite subjects, the shoulder girdle and the shoulder in general. We are going to do an exercise on how to properly strengthen your shoulder so that it really improves your posture. Before we go to the exercise though, I'm going to give you like the tiniest, quickest anatomy lesson that I possibly can. So we're going to cover a little bit of the shoulder anatomy, break it down so you have a little bit better understanding. Now if you're an anatomy buff, you can skip on over to the exercise. So the first part of the shoulder anatomy that I want to talk about is the shoulder girdle. So there's the shoulder girdle, which is your shoulder blade, which is kind of like this triangle. There's a tip down here, there's a tip here, and there's a tip right here. So we've got boom, boom, boom. So we also have the collarbone. So the collarbone, of course, everyone knows your clavicle or your collarbone. So that reaches from right here at your breastbone all the way out to where it meets your shoulder blade. This meeting is this little nodule right here. I call it the garage hood, called your acromion process. So the acromion process, I like to think of as the garage carport sort of hood there. And then we have a little bone right in here that's also part of your shoulder blade, but it's just in front, called your coracoid process, right? And so I just want to mentally, you just sort of hear these once so you kind of know what I'm talking about. The second part of the shoulder anatomy I want to tackle is your shoulder joint, right? So which is actually looking at how this arm is attached to the shoulder girdle. So this is your upper arm bone, also known as your humerus. And this is where your humeral head rests in what we call the glenoid cavity, which is part, like a little ledge of your shoulder girdle, right? So your shoulder blade, that triangle, has a little cup, like a little very shallow cup that's called your glenoid cavity, and your humerus right here, this humeral head, is resting on there. So if I start to drop, I like force my shoulders down, I drop my acromion process down, which is also going to change the angle of that glenoid cavity, and then you can see how I no longer have an edge for my humerus to rest on. So instead of having like a little ledge for that to rest on, I've let it go. And so then it's just dangling on from your rotator cuff. You're going to get a lot of pulling in your neck and at your shoulders. So I want you to know that that placement of your shoulder girdle is really important for the support of your shoulder joint. The third part I want to think about is your armcore. So how your hands, how your shoulders, how your shoulder girdle are connecting to your trunk. It's your ribs underneath your shoulder girdle that really help you figure out where to place the shoulder girdle. So your spinal alignment is key for all of this shoulder work. So a couple of things, I'm going to demo the exercise so you can kind of get a sense of what you want to look for and what you don't want to do. So we're going to turn to face the wall. And we're going to start with our forearms on the wall, and you can just watch for this first one, because what we're going to be doing is sliding the shoulder blades together and apart, and then we're going to be pushing out from the wall and coming in. So a couple of things. I don't want to take my head forward, especially when I shrug my shoulders. They're going to collapse in there. I want to make sure that I stay lifted through my skull. But another thing, sometimes we overcompensate and we kind of like pull our chin really back and flatten our neck. I don't want you to do that either. You just want a nice long neck, your skull over your ribs, right? I'm away from the wall as much as, if I'm too far back, then it's way too much arm work and I can't push out. If you're too far forward, you won't feel any work. So you'll have to figure out what is your distance that you can hold both the strength in your shoulders and your core support, right? Because you're looking for this plank position. Think walk the plank, right? So you really want to be like a board in your body. So another thing is sometimes we start to sway in our back and our belly kind of goes and our back collapses and you start to feel it only in your back and you've lost the shoulder work. So I want you to pull your belly in and really find that plank position where your skull, your ribs, and your pelvis are all in that plank position, right? The other thing sometimes happens is we're like, okay, we'll pull back to that plank position, but we start to round, right? When our chest kind of falls back and then we start to only feel it in here with our shoulders. So you want to be mindful that you're still lengthening through your breastbone, widening across the collarbones, really sensing that your shoulder girdle is kind of like a coat hanger, right? You really want to be broad. You want to be able to rest your jacket easily on there. So let's get started. So you want to find your feet parallel. Cue up the belly just a little bit so you don't sag or round in your spine. You're going to bring your elbows to the height of your shoulder and to the wall. We're going to do 5 shoulder shrugs. So we're just going to slide our shoulder blades together and push away. 2 and together. Make sure you don't pinch the shoulders up. 3, 4, 5. Keeping the belly in. Then from there, we're going to press into the hand. Make sure your hands don't make a little claw. You're keeping your shoulder blades stable in this. So this is where you really want to work on the stability of your shoulders. So you want to keep your shoulders on your ribs on top of your pelvis. Push into the wall and stretch your arms straight for 5, 4. Collarbones lifted and wide. 3, 2, 1. From there, we're going to adjust a little bit. So the first part of the things we're doing is we're mobilizing the shoulder, right? We're getting it to mobilize a little bit so we can figure out where it is on our body. So that's sometimes part of the problem with our shoulders. They're back there. We can't really see them, so it's hard to know where they are. So we're going to bring your hand now to the height of your shoulder. So instead of your elbow, it'll be your hand. About shoulder's distance. So here's my shoulder joint. My hand's coming straight out from there. My hands are not twisted. My middle finger is in line with the middle of my wrist, in line with my elbow, in line with my shoulder joint. Stepping back a little bit farther from the wall. I just have to adjust because now my arms are straight. We're going to keep the arms straight. Don't hyperextend your elbows like this. Keep them just straight, not hyperextended and not bent. And all you're going to do is shrug the shoulder blades together. Again, sometimes our heads bob forward when we do that. So bring the head above the ribs above the pelvis, and then push the wall away. Shrugging shoulders together and apart. 3 and apart. 4, 5. Then holding with that width of your shoulder. Remember, I don't want to roll my shoulders forward and round my back. I want to lengthen my spine, wrap my shoulder around my back, keep reaching through the hand. I'm going to keep my shoulders stable on my back, collarbones wide and lifted as I bend for 5, 4. Only go down as far as you can keep your shoulders stable. 3, 2. Last one. 1. So if you find that you can't quite keep your shoulders stable on your back, take a smaller range of motion or start off with just the elbow, the forearm plank, right? So just where your forearms are on there. And start with the mobility so you get a sense of where your shoulders can rest on your back. Then from there, play with the pushing out. Then from there, play with the straight arms. So shoulders sometimes take a little while to wrap your head around because they're on the back of your body. You can't really see them, so it's just hard sometimes. So take your time with it. And if you feel like this exercise is a little constricting, because we definitely are doing some stability work there, then go back to episodes 9 or episodes 8 where we move our shoulders and our arms a little bit more, and feel free to do those. Now that you experienced your arm core, right, really felt your shoulders and how they rest on your trunk and how they can support and enhance your posture, go out, spread the love. Please feel free to share it with any of your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep moving.